Okay. So this is a training for caregivers, specifically for children in the LGBTQ plus community, regarding grief and loss. My name is Sam Middleton, and with me today is CJ Roseberry, and we are from Uplift Center for Grieving Children. So in today's training, we've broken it into 3 parts. So hopefully, if you have the time, you can watch all of it in one go. If not, it'll help you be able to reference where you should pick it up again if you happen to have to put it down for whatever reason. So in part 1, we will discuss what it means to listen to your child. So we will go over steps in active listening and what that looks like. Part 2 will be guiding your child. So that is going to be how you can help support them. And part 3 is going to be caring for your child. So this is a continuation of part 2 with a little bit of extra info. Before you watch, here are some things for you to consider. The first one is to have some water nearby or a drink of any kind, whatever it is, and maybe a snack if you would prefer. The second part is to try to be in an area with headphones. And if you don't have access to headphones, maybe try to be in an area with little noise. So we know that that might be a little bit difficult, but the information in this presentation we feel is very important. So we want you to be able to get all of it. And part 3, which I mentioned a little bit earlier, is to watch and stop whenever you need. So this is obviously pre-recorded, which means that you can kind of do it however you feel the need to. And especially if there's some of this information in here that isn't new to you and you're pretty confident in it, you could always skip past it. Or if all of this is going to be brand new for you, you can play it back to really get the full information. So we'll start with 1, which is listening to your child. So as a caregiver, you are very clearly already supporting your child or children in the best ways that you know how and what is the best for them. And this workshop is really just here to offer some extra tools that will help kind of expand your parenting playbook. So there are 4 steps to active listening. Step 1 is checking your body language. Step 2 is to stop and think. So there's a little bit of processing. Step 3 is open-ended questions. And step 4 is saying it back and checking in. So we're going to dissect these a little bit more and talk about each one individually. So for step 1, body language, we want to make sure that when we're having conversations, we're present. And children are really good at catching vibes when we're not fully present and engaging with them. So some of the ways that we can make sure that we are coming to them ready to have a conversation is to make sure that we are not on our computer or phone or watching TV. Be seated and comfortable while facing your child and engaging with them. Consistent eye contact, not constant, but consistent. So make sure that you're checking in with them, engaging in eye contact with them so they know that you are focused on what they're saying. Keeping your body relaxed. So arms not crossed, arms kind of just how they would naturally fall. Sit to the side or to an angle of them. So this will ensure that it's not like a dominant space. We want to make sure that when we're having conversations, it's a comfortable flow of conversation and not kind of talking at one another. And maintaining a constant and consistent tone in your voice. So not raising your voice in what might be perceived as anger or aggression, or lowering your voice in the same ways, just kind of keeping it cool and consistent like we're doing right now. Step 2 is to stop and think. So before responding to whatever it is that your child is sharing with you, make sure that you're stopping and processing what's actually been said. Ask yourself the following questions. What did I hear them say? So this is very plain. We're not delving into deeper meanings. It's very much, I heard my child say X, Y, and Z. We're not going to guess what that means. How do I want to respond would be the second question that we want to ask. So are we confused? Are we in agreement? Are we in disagreement? What is the kind of response that we're planning on giving here? If you're unable to or can't figure out how you would like to respond, you can always kind of set that boundary with your child and say, I hear you and I am willing to have this conversation, but right now I need to think about what was said and how I want to respond to that. There's nothing wrong with stepping away from a conversation or sort of whatever is happening if you're not exactly sure where your mind is or what you're feeling. Step 3 is open-ended questions. So open-ended questions help make sure that we're engaging in conversation, right? So we don't want to be accusatory. We don't want to lock people into a yes and no situation. So some examples of open-ended questions that we might want to ask are, can you tell me more about that? So asking for more information in a broad sense, as opposed to, did this thing happen? What happened? So asking your child to elaborate and tell you a little bit more about the situation. What did you do? So asking your child how they interacted with and were a part of whatever is happening. How did you handle that? That is, checking in with them. Were they handling it in a way that you taught them to handle it, or were they handling it in a way that they kind of guessed is how they should handle it? This can also be referring to emotions. So if it's a really emotionally heavy situation, like, how are you handling that? Or, what were you feeling at the time? And of course, what do you think about that? So making sure to engage your children in what their opinions are on the situation is very, very important. And step 4 is the final step to active listening, and that's just saying it back. So in your own words, you're going to repeat what your child has said and what you heard them say. So, and then you want to clarify that you got the information right. So again, we're not sort of making guesses as to what our children might mean. We are actually just repeating back the information that we just heard. And in asking if you got it right makes it so they can give you more information if they feel it's necessary. They can clarify if they have to, and maybe explain something if they feel like you haven't gotten whatever is being said. Always thank your kid, your child, for sharing with you, because sometimes the things that our children want to share with us can be really, really difficult for them to want to share at all. And so you want to show that you respect that they had the courage and tenacity to do that in the first place. And then the final part of this is to ask if they would like you to check in with them at any point in the future about what happened, what was talked about, or, any sort of feelings that they might have on the situation.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sam, for walking us through those. We're now entering into part 2, which Sam shared as guiding your child. And when we think about guiding your child, we think about 2 things that Sam and I kind of went through. And we're thinking about when we're creating this training and workshop. And the first thing is safety. So I want to talk a minute about what safety means, and it's different for everybody. So I could be stating one thing that for me or a child I had would be a safety concern, or what safety would look like for them or for myself. And you may be like, not for me. That's not what safety means for me, or what being unsafe means. So I just wanted to preface it with that safety is different for everyone, including the children that you take care of. So when we're thinking about keeping our children safe, you may have some stuff in your mind at the forefront that keeps them safe. But they also have things that themselves make them feel safe and unsafe. So that may look different or similar to what you think of as safety and not safe. And children specifically in the LGBT community who are grieving a loss or multiple losses of people who have died in their lives, a lot of times they can feel isolated. And that could be due to a lot of different factors. Sam and I have had youth share with us a multitude of reasons why they might feel lonely or isolated after a person dies in their life who maybe they were really close to and knew parts of their identity, or on the opposite end of that, didn't know about their identity and maybe that child wanted them to know. And then also, they might have had someone die in their life who knew about their sexual or gender identity and they disagreed with it, or they made it really hard for them to exist in their personhood with that gender or sexuality identity. So a lot of different reasons why our children or child might feel that sense of isolation. And their safety can be at risk in a couple different ways. And we're going to focus on physically and mentally. So a lot of times when we think of safety, we think of our physical body and how it could be unsafe. And certainly for the child that you take care of, that can be something that can be at risk. But also there is a mental safety and unsafety that can happen with our children. And that mental safety can be people calling them the wrong name if they change their name and have a different name, or if they want to be called different pronouns. So that could be if your child used to use she, her pronouns, and now they want to be identified using he, him pronouns, and people not using those correct pronouns. And that can be a really big safety risk for your child and can lead to that isolation. And so identifying what that safety looks like for your child, both mentally and physically, is going to be really important to help them create their own self-expression. So to create safety for your child is to allow them to be able to express themselves in safe ways. And so this means that there's going to be different spaces that your child will need to be a part of to be able to express themselves. And so we're going to look a little bit more in depth at what those spaces are in the next slide. First, we're going to go over safety planning though. So I just got done talking about safety and how it can be different for everyone. So safety planning is something that Sam and I wanted to share as a possible tool for you to use with your child. But we also wanted to put it out there that sometimes your child might be like, I don't want to do that with you. And that's totally okay if they don't want to engage in safety planning with you. But having an adult in their life who maybe they would feel a little bit more comfortable with safety planning is going to be important. And that will connect to those different spaces that they can self-express with and feel safe in that we're going to talk about a little bit later. And safety planning at its core is really helping your child set up ways and places and things to help them feel safe in a variety of situations. And creating this plan with your child is going to give you a chance to hear what it means when they feel unsafe. And then on the opposite end, what does safety look like for them? And we broke this down to 3 different steps. First step is to identify and talk about 3 trusted adults that your child can talk to when their safety is at risk. And this talking to can be done via text, messenger, phone, in person. And the basis with this is it needs to be realistic. So your child may go, I want to go to grandma's house, but when I feel unsafe. But what if grandma lives in a different state? Then child can't go to that house. But maybe they can call grandma on the phone when they need someone to talk to. And that's more realistic of a person that they can connect with right now. And identifying 3 people is really important, because what if they identify grandma, but grandma can't talk on the phone right now? Who else is going to be that person who they can connect with more immediately when their safety is at risk? Step 2 is to identify 3 places that your child can go and how they can get there if their safety is at risk. And this is really tricky, especially for younger children, because oftentimes they can't leave situations, and we do recognize that. And even for older children, they might not be able to leave that situation. So it's really important to have those 3 people identified who they can immediately connect with when their safety is at risk and they can't go anywhere. But if your child is in a space where they can leave that space, it's important to figure out where they can go, instead of just walking around and not having a place to go. So identifying 3 realistic places that they would be able to go. And finally, step 3 is identifying 3 different activities or coping skills that your child can turn to when maybe they can't leave that situation. Maybe they can't get a hold of those people, but maybe there's something that they can do that's going to help their mental safety at that point. And what that could be is getting on their phone and playing some games to disengage from that unsafe situation. It could be little stress toys. So right here I have and this is quite large, they have smaller ones, but like a little squishy stress ball. These are fantastic to go to Five Below or the Dollar Tree and grab little stress toys that your kid can carry with them and have with them in their backpack or their purse, or maybe even slide into their pocket, so that they can have something to utilize when their safety is at risk. Also, books are really important. Music is another really big thing for kids, but making sure that your kid has some headphones so that they can do that to themselves. Breathing for some kids can be really helpful. There's something called roller coaster breathing that your child can do on their thigh. I hold my hand up like this to just demonstrate that their hand will be face down on their thigh, and they can trace their hand, breathing in as they go up and breathing out as they go down. And you're going to repeat that on your entire hand. And so this is something that you could share with your child, and even say, hey, I do this sometimes when I'm feeling stressed or I'm in a situation that I don't feel the safest. And finally, in safety planning, it's really important to explain why you want to do this with your child. Because they're probably going to ask, well, why do you want to do this? Why should I? And having an idea of the why in your head of why you want to do this with your child or connect them to another adult to do it with. And now we're on to that self-expression piece and those different spaces that I talked about earlier. And so when we think about having our children be able to express themselves, especially our children who are in the LGBT community, we want to make sure that they can do that and that it's not pushed down inside of them to where it can't get out. The first space that they need to have some type of a space to do the self-expression at is at home. And so everyone's home is different and who lives in it, and the spaces that you have available within your home. But some things that you can do in the home to help your child express themselves is using a name that they want to be called inside of the home, having the entire family do that, different pronouns, type of dress, makeup, hair, anything that is that sort of self-expression. And so for some of us, our children live with people who do not accept or understand their gender or sexuality identity. So maybe even in the home, it's not the safest or best time to have your child self-express because there's someone in the home who would say not nice things, would say ignorant things to them, that would make the situation worse and not allow them to self-express. And in cases like that, where maybe your child can't try different types of dress or makeup or hair at home, if they can try those things in a space. So if they have their own bedroom, they can do that in their bedroom, and letting them know that they can do that in their bedroom. If they don't have their own bedroom, bathroom time. You have this amount of time in the bathroom these days a week to do your makeup, try different hair, say kind things to yourself using your name and what you want to be called. And sometimes when those spaces aren't available for your child to do that at home because of safety concerns, encouraging your child to draw or write how they are and who they are. And this can be really good for our trans kids who identify as a different gender than what they were assigned at birth. So draw what you want to look like and how you see yourself and what you would wear and what your hair would look like, can be really affirming and allow your child to express in a safe way if that's not available to do at home. The next space that it's important for our children to be able to self-express is at school. And some schools, specifically usually high schools, but sometimes middle schools, have GSAs or gender sexuality alliances. And this is a club that your child can join to be with other children who are in the LGBTQ community and their allies, so people that support them. So that's one option where your child could self-express and be around community of students and faculty who are in the LGBT community. And another way at school that your child can self-express is identifying, and this kind of ties into safety planning a bit, but asking your child who at school do they feel safe to express themselves with. It might be certain teachers, certain counselors, friends, and encouraging them to, if they feel safe and trusted with those people, to express who they are with them. And finally, other spaces where your child can express who they are safely is with trusted community. And this is a variety of different types of community. And for some of us, it may be extended family. For others, it might be LGBTQ centers, or it could be chosen family. So family friends who know about your child's identity and are very supportive of them. And that's really about figuring out what community is for your child and where they're going to feel the safest to express who they are. And we've broken down into two different slides, some resources for your child. And I'll go through each of them and we'll leave it up for just a second longer so that you can pause and take down the info. The first is the Trevor Project. And this is a nonprofit organization who specializes in suicide prevention and crisis intervention for youth in the LGBTQ community. And so this is a number or text number that your child can call or text if they need someone to talk to immediately. This is a 24/7 crisis hotline. And so if your child is feeling suicidal, or if they're just feeling a lot of big feelings and they need someone to talk to, this could be one of the trusted adults that is part of that safety plan, because it is constant access for your child on phone or text. And the next is the Trans Lifeline. And this is very similar to the Trevor Project in that it is a 24/7 hotline. This hotline, however, or lifeline, is more specific to people in the trans community. So this is any youth who identify as transgender, non-binary, gender non-conforming, gender expressive, anything outside of cisgender. Your child could call this hotline and get immediate support. The next is a Philly-specific organization, the Attic Youth Center. And the Attic Youth Center has multiple programs, services, including one-on-one therapy for youth in the LGBT community. And they also have a variety of different groups that your child can join, both in person and virtually. And finally, we have restorative connection therapists. This is a group of therapists who all identify within the queer, trans, non-binary, LGBTQ community. And they also do that type of therapy specifically with people in the LGBT community. This could also be a really good resource for you as well if you needed a therapist or wanted a therapist. Next, we have the LGBTQIA+ Philly School District website. And this website just has more resources to connect to both nationwide and Philly specific. We also have the Valley Youth House Runaway Hotline, and this is more specific for youth who have run away from home to help homeless youth find that housing, and they provide more structural support for that sort of thing. And then finally, we have the Philly Hope Line. And the Philly Hope Line is by Uplift Center for Grieving Children, where Sam and I work. And it is a line that, a free line that you and your child can both call. And there are queer and trans youth specific hours that Sam is on. And so these hours are specifically for allies, so caregivers in the community who support children in the LGBT community, as well as kids in the LGBTQ community who are grieving. And also this can be used for grief support. So if you or your child or both of you would like more information on how to get signed up for grief groups, you can also call this number. And finally, we're entering into our last part, part 3, caring for your child. And we have like a little triangle of care here that we've broken down into self-care, social care, and family care. We'll start with self-care. This is a buzzword that probably many of us have heard and kind of elicits, you know, taking a bubble bath and spending a lot of money on shopping, in my mind. But when we think of self-care, we're really describing how you take care of yourself as your child's caregiver. This is the number one form of care. This is the best thing you can do for your child to support them, is to make sure that your needs are met and that you are taking care of yourself in whatever ways that you need to be taken care of. This can include making doctor's appointments. This can include literally taking a shower if you haven't taken a shower in a couple days. This can include reading books, having some alone time in your room where it's just you, maybe taking a nap or resting, watching a TV show, doing anything that you identify as care for your body, mind, and soul, whatever that is. And it can be a lot of different things, and it looks different for everyone. Just like safety planning and what safety is different for everyone, same thing with self-care. So really figuring out, how can I take care of myself first in order to support my child? And then that ties us into family care. And what we mean by family care is, what are some things that as an entire family you can do together with your child to help them feel supported and taken care of, as well as yourself and the other people in your family. So that could be creating something called family time, where once a week, everyone in the family who lives in the home does something together for about 1 to 2 hours, an activity. This activity could be recording a TikTok dance together, going to get some ice cream. It could be getting a Philly pretzel. It could be going to the park, playing some type of a game together, anything like that, just together as a family and making it a consistent thing that you do each week together. And having that sort of family care where you're doing something specifically just for the family that your children or child can begin to look forward to shows that they can count on something happening consistently, and it helps them feel supported by their more immediate family in the house. And then finally, we have social care. And social care kind of ties into that community that your child can be a part of, or multiple communities that your child can be a part of that celebrates them and supports them. And so these can be things like going to pride events. These can be things like if your child, you join them to the Attic Youth Center because they want to be part of that. They do a lot of things together as a community. If you are involved with your church and your child wants to be involved with the church, if they have LGBTQ specific programming that supports children and people in the LGBT community, looking into that. There's so many different spaces of community that your child can be a part of that will really help them to feel supported and seen and heard and affirmed in those spaces for exactly who they are. And then we also put together a little resource for you page. And so the first one is called Gender Spectrum, and they do virtual groups for any allies or people who are caregivers, parents, guardians, family members in general of people in the LGBTQ community. And this helps you navigate the best ways to support your child, and how do you support yourself and get your feelings out in a space with others who are going through similar things. And the webpage is right there. So I suggest just getting on there and looking at the different types of group they have and seeing if that's something that maybe you could sign up for. And then next we have PFLAG, and PFLAG is a similar organization that is for LGBTQ plus people, but it's also for their families and their parents and allies in the community to know and learn and be educated and supported as best ways to support those in the LGBT community. And right now, there is not a Philadelphia chapter that is currently running. However, on that website, there are a list of resources for other PFLAGs that are close to Philly who are doing things both in person and virtually currently. And then finally, we talked about the Philly Hope Line a little bit earlier as something for your child to call. This is also something for you to call and get support, because you have also lost people. You are also grieving, and you are also supporting your child through all of that. And so this line is for you and our grief groups. So at Uplift, we do grief support groups for kids kindergarten through 12th grade and anyone who is supporting that child in a caregiver role. So we also have groups for you, and you can reach out to this line to find out more about that. We want to thank you. This was awesome. So we really appreciate you watching this. We hope you got something out of it. And we just want to say that you are already doing an amazing job taking care of your children and supporting them. And just keep up what you're doing, because you're doing an amazing job. So we thank you. And if you need to contact us, call the Philly Hope Line.